Hello, everybody, and welcome to Voices of Impact. I am super excited about this connection. It's so interesting. Sometimes you meet people and you don't remember that you've met them before, and that you're reintroduced, and then you're like, oh my gosh, your name's familiar, and you start dropping names, and you realize how many connections you have in common. So, this next person, his name is Mike Brodsky, our next guest. So, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Sure, sure. So I am Mike Brodsky. I am a financial advisor. I've been doing this for 27 years, but I'm also an author. I've written a couple of books and do some sports journalism, which is actually kind of how we had met, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm also getting involved with doing a little bit more acting recently for fun. And I'm also on the board of several nonprofits here in Central Florida. So I've been making an impact in that way in the nonprofit world recently as well.
Awesome. So we're going to unpack quite a few things here. We're going to talk about philanthropy. We'll dive into some acting. And then, of course, how we are in common through a mutual friend of ours. But let's kind of backtrack a little bit. Let's talk about your acting first, because that was what you ended with. And the reason
Okay.
why I bring that up is because
Yeah.
I lived in Hollywood, California for 13 years pursuing an acting career. And
Ah,
had a different plan for my life.
yes.
I mean, if a role came, I would still take it. But now he uses me as a speaker. The skill set that I learned as an actress, I then transitioned to speaking very well and
Yeah.
fluidly, right?
Yes.
But take me back a little bit. So talk about your acting. Were you in Hollywood? Where were you doing acting? What was your favorite role?
Sure. On the acting side, it's something that I had done when I was much younger. Never really did the Hollywood thing, but it was something that I did throughout school and high school, and then also I'd gone to Stage Door Manor, which is a performing arts training center, really a summer camp up in Loch Sheldrake, New York, and did that from the time I was about uh, 14 to 17. Met some great people, got some great education about acting while I was there. Went on to as an undergraduate. I was at Yale University and performed in a number of plays when I was there, and then went on to get my MBA from Duke University. And actually, while I was there, kind of started up a sketch comedy show, TV show that is actually still going 33 years later. It's still on the air and still happening at the business school. And so I'm sort of known as the godfather of Fuqua Vision for anybody that's familiar with the Fuqua School of Business at Duke University. And after graduating, I'd actually worked in television as a television news producer with the NBC affiliate in West Palm Beach, and then with America's Health Network. And around the time I was getting married, did a bit of a career pivot and sort of got out of really a lot of different things and sort of ended up becoming a financial advisor, which again I've been doing for the past 27 years. And it's in recent years that I've kind of gone back and realized maybe there's some other things I wanted to get back into, and acting was one of those things. And so, really, within the past couple of years, I've started to do a little bit more in terms of short films, local films, things like that. When I've had opportunities to get into different projects, especially where it's sort of minor time commitments. If I can go and spend a few hours on a movie set and do something for fun and play a role, it's been a lot of fun to be able to do that.
A
So,
couple hours
I
is
do,
so much better than going on set for 17. I remember doing extra work when I was
right.
16,
Yes. Yeah.
17, and spending so many hours on set,
Right.
which is absolutely insane. Actually, I was 20, not 17. I graduated
Okay.
then. But I love acting, and it's so
Yeah.
interesting. You're in South Florida, Central South.
Central Florida, Central Orlando area. Yep. Mhm.
Okay, so I've only been in this area for about 2.5 years at the time of this
Okay.
recording. And I moved here with a great friend of mine. Her name is Jessica Lynn Johnson. She is a director of solo theater. She actually directed my solo play called But I Love Him, which is my experience in an abusive relationship portrayed on stage. And moving to Florida, I didn't realize there were so many opportunities. So after this podcast recording, I need to talk to you about some of these
We'll chat. Yes.
Because I definitely would love to get back into commercials and doing, bits and pieces and minor roles in movies and things like that. So that's awesome. So you're getting back into acting. You've realized
Right.
after 20 years in the financial advisor industry that there might be something even more that you want to continue pursuing. What made you go down the financial advisor route?
Well, when I was an undergraduate at Yale University, I ended up majoring in economics, and it was something that I just became very passionate about the field of economics and money and investing and all of that, and had actually interned with Shearson Lehman Hutton back when I was an undergraduate at Yale University, and of course went on to get my MBA at Duke University. So I was always very interested in business and investing, all of that. And at the same time, TV was one of those things that I was very passionate about. And so when I first got out of business school, I did enter the field of TV, and it was a lot of fun. But at the same time, it's a very difficult career, difficult to make that work. And I think also once I got to Orlando, I recognized that, this was a pretty great place to raise a family. And I knew if I stayed in TV, I'd probably have to be willing to keep moving around the country from market to market, and that might not be the best thing for my family to keep pulling them along every couple of years, moving to a new location. So I decided to pivot back to being a financial advisor because that was really something I knew that I could always go back into, and it's been a great career, and it's been great to be able to help people in that field. So I did make that pivot, and it's been wonderful. And at the same time, now that our kids are grown and my wife and I are empty nesters once again, and the kids are out in the real world, I have a little bit more free time to be able to pursue some of these other passions that I've had.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely amazing. So, let's kind of talk about you growing up, Mike. So,
Okay.
you went through acting. You talked about acting at 14. You were up in on the East Coast. You said New York, right?
Connecticut. Yeah,
Connecticut.
I was in Connecticut. You're right, but the camp was in upstate New York. Yes,
Right. So,
Loxtonbury.
how was your childhood?
It was good. It was a great childhood. I mean, had a great upbringing, younger brother, younger sister. Um, what can I say? I mean, it was a very different world, I think, from what kids experience these days. Where you could sort of hop on your bike and ride to a friend's
Well,
house in the neighborhood and go play wiffle ball and
need to be.
football.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the way things need to be now.
Yeah, yeah. Wouldn't it be great if kids can actually do that? I think kids just can't even, you can't go anywhere outside of the house without fear that they're going to just disappear or whatever. I mean, it's a different world today. But certainly, it was a simpler time, I guess, back then, and great experience.
The
Great
reason
experience.
why I ask about your childhood and transitioning this direction is you do a lot of philanthropic work. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering what triggered you to get into philanthropy.
Hmm. I think for me, I've always wanted to be able to help out and make the world a better place in any way that I can. And I think with philanthropy, it's interesting as a financial advisor, early on in my career, I had an opportunity. Someone had invited me to join the board of directors of actually the Orlando International Fringe Festival, which for anybody, so you may be familiar with Fringe, for anybody who knows about theater and that sort of thing, Fringe is really sort of like the cutting edge sorts of plays that people put together and put out there. And that was the first board of directors I ever got involved with. And I did that for a few years. It was a great experience. And from there, had other opportunities I was invited onto different boards, whether it was the JCC of Greater Orlando, or whether it was the oh gosh, I've been on the boards of more recently Mustard Seed of Central Florida. I was chairman of the board of the Mustard Seed, which is a furniture and clothing bank here in Central Florida. Was on the board for about 7 years before I termed out. So just about a year ago, I ended up joining the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida as well. And so I've been doing that for just over a year now. Um, I'm also the president of the Yale Alumni Association of Central Florida and the All Ivy Club of Central Florida. And that's been a great opportunity to work with those organizations as well. So I've just had some great opportunities, and along the way to be able to sort of give back and help out the community in any way that I can. I think it's important that we all do that.
Yeah, 100%. Social
Mhm.
impact is the currency of the future. And our social impact is very important. So if you are watching this, listening to this, whatever you do, do something. Just don't do
Yes,
nothing, right? So once you see
exactly.
something, say something, do something,
Yeah, yeah,
take that next step. So I run a nonprofit organization called Unsilenced Voices.
yeah.
And, it was because of my abusive relationship. 2017, I felt God calling me to do something even more with my story. So if you're out there and you have a story, you can do something even more with it. And I started Unsilenced Voices in 2017. And at the time of this recording, we are a six-figure nonprofit working on going on seven, working primarily in West Africa. And then I want to also provide housing and a day center in Tampa, Florida. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of moving pieces to running a nonprofit organization. And, Mike, you have sat on many, many boards,
Yeah.
and we are actually in the midst where we are right now, looking for a board member in legal. So we're piecing back together our board for the 2025 year. This could be 2027 that somebody's listening to this podcast. But yeah, piecing that together right now. So very, very excited about that. But it is, using your voice, and you were called at an early age to just want to help and to give back. So then how does that transition into sports broadcasting?
Well, I've always been a big sports fan, just in general. And I guess what was interesting is several years ago, actually, I was invited to join the board of directors of an organization called World Sports Alumni, which interestingly enough is not technically a nonprofit. It's actually a for-profit organization, but it's designed for former athletes, basically. They had sort of come together because a lot of the alumni organizations of professional sports, such as let's say the NFL Players Association or whatever, they are set up as nonprofits, and it's sort of expected that they will, they invite the players to sort of come and make appearances for free, and these guys don't get paid because, well, we're a nonprofit, so we can't really pay you. And I think these guys decided, maybe there's an opportunity to put something together for sports alumni where maybe they could get paid in some ways and make appearances and actually be compensated for that. So I joined the business board of directors for World Sports Alumni, and that opened a lot of interesting doors, a lot of interesting connections, including one of the books that I wrote, Fourth Down and Damn Alignment Story, the autobiography of Leon Searcy, that really came to me because of World Sports Alumni. But um, in addition to that, it was actually one of the connections that I had made through World Sports Alumni that got me an opportunity to basically cover the Pro Bowl when the Pro Bowl came here to Orlando in 2019. I was able to get media access for the Pro Bowl practices, and it was the first time that I'd done anything in media going back 2 decades. I hadn't, I'd been completely out of media for a while, but I used that as an opportunity to say, oh, you know what, this sounds kind of fun. It'd be great to go back and cover that. So my first day in media, after being out of it for 20 plus years, I ended up breaking a story that got picked up by ESPN, TMZ, and Bleacher Report. And that's really what opened the door, yeah, to be able to do all these cool things like covering the Super Bowl and covering Orlando Magic Media Days or certain golf tournaments. And I've had just amazing opportunities to interview all kinds of different sports celebrities and other celebrities too in the process.
That's super awesome. So me with a background of theater, acting, I've been on stages, and we now have this podcast and been interviewed on ABC, KTLA, Fox, NBC, all these places. Can I get media access?
Maybe there's a process. We could talk about that off air. It's a long
Talk about
story,
that
but
off air. Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So before Mike and I started recording, we were trying to figure out how we knew each other because I recognized his name. I'm very good at names, and trying to, I know I've seen it, right? So we realized that we both have a friend named Lee.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
Lee Steinberg is the real life Jerry Maguire. The movie was based off of his life, his story. And Lee has helped Unsilenced Voices be able to raise significant funds for Unsilenced Voices,
Right.
by speaking and showing up. And he's a great friend of mine, right? I met him through my very first business coach, Bill Walsh, not the NFL Bill Walsh, the
Right.
business coach, Bill Walsh.
Yes.
But yeah, Lee's awesome, and he throws this Super Bowl party every year. So, Mike, let's talk about the
Yes.
Super Bowl party real fast.
Well, sure. Lee Steinberg, I have interviewed him, of course, a couple of times in recent years, and I've been invited to his party the last few years as well. And it is an amazing party. I mean, that's sort of the party of the year in terms of Super Bowl parties. And there are a lot of Super Bowl parties, but Lee Steinberg throws probably the biggest because he's got some amazing clients, including, of course, Patrick Mahomes is one of his clients, and he's represented so many Hall of Famers and other, the football elite over the years. But and of course, he is the real life Jerry Maguire. The movie was sort of based on his life, right? So yeah, that party is just unbelievable. And so I'm sure that we apparently did cross paths, probably in Vegas, we believe. And but it's, I mean, as you know, it's just thousands of people standing around, and it's incredible. Everywhere you look, it's like, oh wow, that's so and so, and look at that person over there. Wow, I know that guy. I mean, it's amazing. It's an
It is
incredible
absolutely amazing. So,
event.
I am hoping to go in 2025. I have the invite. Now it's just figuring out all the logistics because,
Yeah.
like I told you off air, I'd actually like to go to the Super Bowl, but not really wanting to spend $10,000 for a ticket. So that's a whole
Right.
nother.
That's right.
Yeah, really, really kind of cool. This is why, guys, if you're listening, never burn bridges. Always smile. You never know who you're going to run into again and how they're going to impact your life or how you're going to impact theirs. So, speaking of impact, Mike, what
Mhm.
is next for you?
What is next for me? I'd like to believe it'll be more of a continuation of what I've been doing. I mean, as a financial advisor, I'd like to believe that I'm always making an impact in people's lives, helping them plan for the future, plan for a more comfortable retirement, plan to send the kids or grandkids off to college, plan to maximize the amount of wealth that's going to get transferred from one generation to the next, right? So that'll continue. I'll keep doing that. On the sports journalism side, you mentioned New Orleans. I'll be in New Orleans, and it's kind of exciting because this will actually be the first year that I've got access to game day. Normally, I get to cover Radio Row for the week, but on game day, I'm usually watching the Super Bowl on TV with a bunch of other people or whatever. And this year, I actually have a seat in the media workroom, so that's kind of exciting to be at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Will be that'll be a new experience. But this will be my sixth Super Bowl, basically covering the Radio Row events and all of that. In terms of nonprofits, still involved, obviously, with Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida. We are in the process of trying to continue the launch of Future Dreamers and Achievers, which is a scholarship program sort of with a focus on careers in entertainment for young high school students and that kind of thing, encouraging them to stay in school and learn about their craft. Um, Also, on the acting side, I have a few more things I'll be shooting in the next couple of months, but just always looking for interesting opportunities in that area. As an author, the first book that I'd ever written was Incremental Improvements, Change Your Life One Small Step at a Time, and this sort of has opened a lot of doors in terms of doing some mentoring with different people and people that just need advice or guidance on how to make improvements in their life. And the whole idea of incremental improvements is sort of doing it in sort of small, manageable, bite-sized pieces rather than trying to tackle these major goals and expect them to happen overnight, which doesn't really happen. But doing more of that and just kind of continuing to make an impact, one life at a time, one person at a time, to have an impact on not just other lives, but hopefully, ultimately, the world as a whole.
Yeah, 100%. The world needs people like you, Mike, people who take a stand and work so hard to make an impact using your
Mhm.
skill set and the people that you've met in your life, and you just continue um, shaping and helping. And I love that. And I want to hear more about the nonprofit you're putting together in Central Florida to help younger children, teenagers, oftentimes with human trafficking issues, especially over 70% of a lot of those victims are foster kids. So if we're
Mhm.
able to impact their lives in a very positive way, then perhaps we can stop that cycle of
Yeah,
injustice that happens in the world. And that's just
sure.
one aspect, right? We definitely
Yeah.
want the education and empowerment and
Mhm.
entrepreneurialism, all of that.
Yeah.
So I know that we met on an app. And I'm wondering, are you going to be at Podfest also this year?
I may try to swing by. I haven't officially got my ticket yet, but I know I was there last year for one of the days, and I may try to get by there if I can.
Okay,
Yeah,
got it, got it.
yeah.
Well, while we only have a few minutes left, I'm going to ask you two questions. The first, how
Okay.
can people reach you, Mike?
The best way is really through my link tree. So if anybody goes to www.linktr.ee/Mike Brodsky, MikeBrodsky, that's my link tree. It's got connections to pretty much all of my social media. Everything that I'm involved with, you could probably find on that link tree. That would probably be the best option to find all of my links.
Awesome. Okay. And any last words for our audience?
Yeah, I would say that for anybody that's out there, I think a lot of times people get so caught up in living their lives day to day that sometimes they lose the fact that they can also have an impact on others and how important it is to try to pay it forward. Wherever at whatever point in life you're at, there's always a way that you can help. Being involved in nonprofits, we often talk about. Looking for folks that are able to contribute their time, their talents, and their treasures. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm not a multimillionaire. I can't give money to this charity. It's like, well, that doesn't really matter. You can still make an impact by volunteering your time or, whatever your job is. You may have certain talents. I know you mentioned you're looking for someone on the board who's an attorney. So someone who's an attorney that might be able to contribute a few hours of pro bono work. Certainly that's going to be very valuable for your nonprofit organization, right?
Mhm.
And for anybody that's out there listening, I'm sure they have something that they do that they can contribute to any nonprofit organization to make an impact on helping other people's lives. And so don't be afraid to give out your time and give out your talents to make a difference.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for saying that, Mike, because it is so important. It's really not about how much money you can give, but it is time, talent, and or treasure. So if you have some extra time, nonprofits or organizations could need your help, right? Could use your help. If you've got the funds, please donate. Choose an organization and donate. You know, the Bible says donate 10% of what we bring in. So take that literally and donate 10%. I don't care where you donate it to, right? I,
Right.
I prefer one of our nonprofits. However, just donate. Just
Yes.
do what it is that God has asked us to do. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, Mike. You are an absolutely amazing individual. I'm very, very excited to meet you again, probably in person.
Yes.
So yeah, go ahead and stay on afterwards. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been Voices of Impact.
Thank you.